Sorry about that. Someone had called me. She's probably going to call me back in a minute. But, okay, my mother put me in foster care. 17 years old in foster care. 6 months into it, the county found my dad in California. And I'm not saying this is true, but I feel he felt obligated to send for me. So he sent for me. I moved back out here to California. I'm living in my stepmother's house. And mind you, I'm coming there feeling like I'm about to be integrated into my dad's side of the family. Whatever goes for my 3 siblings goes for me. Okay, you tell me to do something like you tell them to do something. I'm not going to give you no lip. I'm not going to talk back. I'm going to do it because I want it to be incorporated into a real family, quote unquote. And she basically kept me separate. Technically, it was my father who kept me separate. But what her kids, she took care of her kids. Not me. I'm not her child. So this one night, I don't know what's going on between the both of them, my dad and my stepmother. But when he came in the door, I was like, Dad, can I go with you tonight? Because he was a bouncer. He would come home, take a shower, change his clothes, and leave right back out. So he said, I'm going to be leaving in 15 minutes. You need to get ready. So, mind you, my sister and my brother were cleaning because they got in trouble because they were supposed to have been cleaning up earlier. I'm thinking I'm going to get in trouble too. She ignored me. So, when she heard that, because she was in the kitchen, she turned to me and said, you need to vacuum. I said, okay. Went and got the vacuum, hooked it up. I'm vacuuming. My little sister is, upset because she got in trouble. And she had to do what she needed to do, but she was sitting on the floor. And I couldn't vacuum where she was, and she wouldn't get up because she was hot. So I'm vacuuming as quickly as I can. And my father comes out and says, what are you doing? I was like, Tasha asked me to vacuum. And he looked at her in the kitchen, and she looked at him. I don't think anything was said, but, So he told me, well, he came over, turned the vacuum off, didn't even let me wrap it back up and put it back, and said, let's go. So we had his other job at night. We come back to the house, and she packed all my stuff and set it by the front door. That's not where it was when we left. So my dad goes into their bedroom and whatever they were talking about, whatever. He comes back out and says, come on. If my daughter's not welcome here, I'm not going to be here either. So he put all my stuff in his little, I call it a Back to the Future looking car. I'm not good with cars. I just know it was a 2-door and it was real slender. So we put all my stuff in his car and we drove. And he was upset. I was upset. I was like, I don't know what I did for this to happen. And he puts me in his apartment. He had an apartment. Unbeknownst to me, he had an apartment. It was nice, real clean. Because my father is a clean individual. So he puts me in his apartment. Tells me how I'm supposed to vacuum. I have to vacuum where the lines are all going in the same direction. Because he had one of them carpets. Nobody could come over. He supposedly had a roommate that I never saw. I need to clean, blah, 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 blah. So I'm sleeping in his bed in his room in this apartment. I thought I was going to be able to spend time with my dad in his apartment. But he left me in this empty apartment by myself while he went back home to his real family. I was a burden. I was a stain on that portrait of his real family. So he put me in an empty apartment. I was there all the time by myself. I had to find a way to get back and forth to school on my own. And I went to Polytechnical High, Tech High. I went to Poly. I had to figure out a way from Burbank to get to Poly every morning. But my siblings got rides to their school bus stops for them to get picked up to go to school. They were taken care of like kids should be taken care of by their parents. Well, their mom anyway. And she would pick them up. She would cook for them. She taught them how to, do everything they're supposed to do. She had, on the way up the stairs to the second floor where my siblings' rooms were, one wall was all one sister, another wall was all another sister, and the third wall was all my brother, of just pictures of them. Each one of them had their own wall. They had portraits. It was like just all that love. My mother didn't do that with me at all. She didn't do that with me or my brother. She tried to do it with my baby sister, but yeah. So, as she left me in this apartment by myself, alone, I got more and more depressed. I was already depressed. My mother threw me away. Now, my father has thrown me away. So my depression got worse. I don't remember this scenario, but he told me that if I'm trying to kill myself, because I guess he got tired of me talking about hurting myself, he said, I want you to go ahead and get that pistol on in my nightstand over there and go to a park or somewhere outside and just go ahead and end it if you're going to do it. So my father had this big old water jug back when they were made out of glass, water jug full of change. And I do mean it was halfway full with nickels, dimes, pennies, quarters, silver dollars, half dollars, dollar bills. It was just full, halfway. It was damn near almost full. So, acting out, I started taking money out of that bank, that water jug. And I would go buy junk food. I did it several times to the point where eventually you started noticing that it was not as high as it was. It was a little low. And when he asked me, I told the truth. Yeah. I mean, I had to tell the truth. I'm the only one in here. And that, come to find out, hurt him tremendously. He didn't look at, well, why did you do it? We need to talk. He was hurt by it. So not only am I an unwanted mistake, I am now a thief. Which I can't blame him about the thief part because I stole from my father. But I was acting out because he threw me away. So when I turned 18, right before I turned 18, I told him I wanted to go back to Ohio because a situation happened where I mentioned someone's name, a woman's name that my father was cheating with while married to my stepmother. And when he asked me who called, and mind you, he came in at night, so looking out down the stairway, there's no light on, so I didn't know if there's other people with him. But he asked me that question, and I answered him. I mentioned the young lady's name, not knowing my stepmother was standing right there looking at him. So, from there, my sister, who thinks she's the oldest, and she's not, called and threatened me. Threatened to beat me up because of what an adult was doing. My father would parade his little side chicks around in front of me because he couldn't do it with the other three because they would tell. I, on the other hand, shut the fuck up. I just shut the fuck up. I was a child. I had no room to judge. None of that. And it would irritate me. Like, you keep introducing me to these side women, and they think that if they get in good with me, you'll leave my stepmother and be with them. And that's not the case. You're using them. You're using them. For whatever you're using them for, you're using them. And he would do that. He's done that several times. Several times. He's done that with me. And I feel shitty. Like, why would you even put me in that situation? Why? Because he's selfish. He's a very selfish person. And he is still going around, as well as my siblings and my stepmother, going around basically still believing that I might not be his. I'm 40 years old. So, I am now in the process of collecting change, to give back to my father for the repayment of the money that I took 22 years ago, with an apology. Then I want to do a home DNA test. And after that, me and him don't have to deal with each other anymore. Not like we dealt with each other that long or that much in the first place. But him telling people that I came here expecting him to do for me, which was not true. That I came here with my hand out, which was not true. I was paying rent, but my brother was not. I could not use the washer and dryer in the house, but everybody else who was in that house could. I had to spend money to go to the laundromat every week. I could not keep my dishes in his kitchen. So my room that I was renting was really, really cluttered between me and a 5-year-old kid. Then, I guess, which I don't remember, but I'm not saying it didn't happen, a few of my rent checks bounced. So he would come to me and yelling and screaming and cussing, saying that I'm about to make him lose the house. And at the time, I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. This man has had this house years before I even showed up. And if I had not shown up, how were you paying your mortgage? Why, when I show up, it is my responsibility to give you money to make sure you keep your house that I have restrict movements in. I can't even park in the driveway. But my sister's wrecked car could sit there. There was one moment that I remember because I was a waitress for a diner, and you know, we get tips. And my father came to me one afternoon before going to his other job, asked me if I had any money on me because he needed to get some gas. I said, yeah, I got some tip money, and I took it out. He was like, well, let me get that. I'll pay it back to you. So I gave him the whole thing. How much it was, I don't know. But it was more than $10. And I sat there and watched him count it. He split it in half and gave half to my stepmother. Right there in my face. But then yells at me if I turn on the air conditioner. Yells at me because we don't take our shoes off at the door. Yells at me because my stepmother said I did A, B, and C, or that my room smelled. Instead of her talking to me like a grown woman, she would wait till my father got home and tell him that I did this, I did that. And it wasn't, either I didn't do it or it wasn't that much important. One time, my niece my first niece came over and was playing with my son. And they were having a good time. You know, cousins playing with cousins. And it was lunchtime. And my stepmother made lunch and fed my niece and didn't feed my son. She told him, if you want something to eat, you need to go get your mama. The only person she was responsible for, or that she considered to be hers, was my niece. So that made my son feel some kind of way, which I felt was not necessary for her to do, but she did it. My father kept me separate because I'm a blemish on his portrait of a perfect family. I'm darker than my siblings. And I know whoever's watching is like, well, you're not dark. Compared to them, I'm dark. I'm darker. And I was a mistake that he made when he was 16. And he claims he loves me. But before we fell out, he never came to see me. Maybe once or twice in a year. Me and him had an agreement over money. And that he would give me a certain amount every year. But when I would call and ask, and mind you, I didn't call and ask for 4 or 5 years. I didn't call and ask at all. But when my friend told me, you need to, because you guys had an agreement and he needs to start helping you out. So I would call and ask him, and he would get an attitude, and he would get snippy, and then he would be like, oh, let me see what I can do. And he'll like, I'll shoot you some change, and he'll like give me $20, $60 here and there. But in a whole year, he never gave me more than $300. Never. And he would get an attitude. So that's where he got that I got my hand out comment from. He doesn't come to see me when I was in the hospital. Every time I was in the hospital, he knew I was in the hospital. He never came to see me. My own father. The woman that decided to start helping me, she showed up. She brought my son up there to see me because he was living with her while I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital the first time for a week. And the second time for 3 weeks. I had to relearn how to walk. Because they diagnosed me with MS. I stopped talking to my grandmother. She is my grandmother. I don't know her. I do love her, but disrespect I'm not going to accept. I have an issue with yelling. I have an issue with screaming. I have an issue with people who are loud and they cuss and fuss so loud that they disturb people around them. Like, we're right here next to you. Why are you so loud? And she embarrassed my son in public. And me and my father was like, oh, why did you just do that? And I do what I want, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so and me and her ended up going back and forth. You're not going to talk to me like that. I don't care, adult or not. You're not going to talk to me like that. I'm not going to cuss at you. But the same respect you expect from me, I expect the same because I'm not little. I got a kid of my own. And you're not going to keep talking to me that way. So I told her she ain't never got to worry about me and my son ever again in life. And I hung up on her. And I blocked her. I have not spoken to her in a year, a little over a year. And I don't plan on to. Okay. These people didn't look for me when I was in Ohio living with my mother while she did drugs. These people didn't look for me when I was being touched inappropriately by men. These people weren't looking for me when me and my brother didn't have any food to eat. Electricity was off. I was working at McDonald's when I was 15, 16 years old and Hadn't seen my mom in 4 days. My brother was at home by himself while I was at work up the street. And, you know, at the end of the night, they do waste check. Like how many burgers were left after closing, and then they throw it away. You know, they just keep track of what was made and not sold. And I had to break down and talk to my boss and ask him if I could take some food home because we didn't have any food. I brought home 8 Big Macs, a couple of fries, some apple pies, and I cried. I had to ask my manager for food because my mother did not have food in the house. My mother was abusive. My father didn't come looking for me. My father didn't come checking on me. My father didn't do none of that. Once I left California at the age of 9 and moved to Ohio, he did not call, see what I was doing, how I was doing, nothing. And then turn around, I have a baby by a man just like him. He doesn't call my son, but yells at me because I moved from there to here. Was I supposed to wait until he decided to be a daddy? That was not in my contract. I don't have to sit there and wait for you to decide when you're going to do what you're supposed to do from the beginning. So when I left, he didn't care. He told me, you got to do what you got to do. That's what he told me. He didn't say, no, you can't take my son. He didn't say none of that. But years later, after he see how much money and child support he owed, now he want to cry, oh, you took my son, I don't get to see him, and blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever. We went out there this past summer. We called him the day we landed. He did not make an effort to come see my son. I had to take my son over there unknown on Father's Day. Me and my son wasn't paying attention. It was actually Father's Day. We had to take my son over there for him to see him for 5 minutes. That's how long the visit was, 5 minutes. And then he blames me, saying it was my fault. I should have called him months earlier to give him time to prepare. You had 8 days. 8. He didn't want to be bothered. He didn't care. He blames my son's awkwardness around him on me. And to be perfectly honest with you, my son is awkward around him because of this issue right here. How is he supposed to be cool with a man that disrespects his mother? Outright. From the beginning of a conversation. Disrespects me. He doesn't know how to talk to me like a normal person. His father does not know how to talk because he gets upset so quickly. And I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care. He's 16. He has his own cell phone. You don't call him. I can't do nothing about it. My son asked me nicely to stop asking him, did your daddy call? Did you call him? Do you want to see him? Wish him Merry Christmas. Because he doesn't make an effort. So my son is like, I'm not going to make an effort. And I'm going to leave this shit alone. Well, that's how I'm feeling today. I'm a little emotional. I'm lonely as hell. But I'm happy with myself. My health is stabilized and I'm trying to keep it that way. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm taking medication. I just sleep a lot because I'm so tired, you know. And my doctor says because I don't have enough blood in my body. So I tend to sleep a lot. And the MS makes you tired. Well, enough from my rambling for today. I look a mess, but I'm still sexy to me. I'm still sexy. Well, I got too many issues. But I know I have issues. And I'm working on every single one of them. I'm not delusional about nothing. I live in the real world. And shit is fucked up out here. Real fucked up. Well, if anybody watches this video, I appreciate it. And you guys have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye.